And welcome back, everybody. This is the ACE Football Academy. I am Coach Dunham again with Coach Hamilton. Today, we are going to be doing our Champions League and Europa preview, going group by group, team by team, and discussing maybe our predictions, our picks, things we're looking forward to. Maybe there's some matchups, maybe some surprise dark horse teams that we're going to be looking at to maybe knock some teams out of the group stage. As it happens every season, there's always that one, maybe a couple teams that kind of shock somebody out. They get a draw or a surprise win. And we're going to be looking forward to some interesting matches. Champions League and Europa will be beginning this coming week, September 19th for Champions League, September 21st for Europa for match week 1. Coach, what are we thinking here?
I mean, this is it, right? This is what you and I spend every week, every Friday, breaking down the big leagues across the world, and this is what they're playing for. They're playing for a spot in the Champions League, and if they don't get that, you're playing for a spot in the Europa League, and that's the goal.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you want to win your own league? Of course you do. Do you want to compete in your own league? Of course you do. But the ultimate goal is to be the best of the best, and that's what you get in the next couple of weeks with the Champions League and the Europa League.
The cool thing about Europa is the winner automatically gets the Champions League spot for the following year. So it's not just winning the title. You could get last place in your league, and you're still locked in for Champions League. So, and not to mention, it's all about the money.
It is.
You win Europa or Champions League, you're bringing your club millions of dollars to bring in better players, upgrade facilities, whatever it may be. So there's a lot at stake to at least get past the group stage for all these teams here. So I'm excited to dig into this year's Champions League and Europa. So what do you say we dig into the big dog? Excuse me. Let's start out with the lower level, Europa. And I'll admit, there's some teams here that I'm just not that familiar with.
Agreed.
Most of these are mid to upper mid table teams in whatever league that they're following in. So we're not going to be experts in some of these, so we're kind of going with the wind here a little bit.
Yeah, and this is where, if you're listening and you know something about these teams, we would love for you to message us.
Absolutely.
Reach out to us and say, hey, look, I'm trying to look at the league now. The Rangers from Scotland, they got this ex-striker, and you need to keep an eye on him. We would love to hear those types of things. So if you are listening, please let us know who we should be watching for. Especially, there's going to be several of these teams that we don't even mention at all, and that is just out of our ignorance. And so we would love for you to reach out to us and let us know.
I'll throw this out there, kind of pinging off of that, and I'm sure you'll agree with this. If there's somebody out there that has knowledge of Europa or Champions League, and you feel like this is your thing, we'd love to have you as a guest.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And kind of spitball some conversation there. So if that's your thing, give us a ping on Facebook. We'll reach out and we'll move on. But let's dig into Europa here. Again, September 21st, match day 1 for Europa. Let's dig into Group A. You have West Ham of England, Olympiacos from Greece, S.E. Freiburg from Germany, and TSC Baka Topala. I'm sure I'm destroying that name, and they're from Serbia. I think, obviously, you and I are very well accustomed to West Ham and S.E. Freiburg.
Absolutely.
Leagues that we randomly follow. Olympiacos, I have heard the name.
Absolutely.
They're well known being in these leagues here. But Baka Topala, this is new for me.
Yep.
Couldn't tell you a single player on that roster, so could they be a dark horse here?
Yeah, and we don't know. When you look at Group A, and I think we're gonna feel this across these 7 groups, that we both kind of have our clear winner and runner-up, and maybe you and I differ a little bit here and there, but I think we're both looking at West Ham and SC Freiburg here. Sounds like maybe you might like Olympiacos. But
I'll agree with you, but I think Olympiacos could be that one that has that win that causes some concern. But I think West Ham, SC Freiburg, clearly the ones that we're expecting to move on from Group A.
Absolutely.
Group B, we have all big-time club Ajax of the Netherlands, Marseille of France, AEK Athens of Greece, and Brighton of England. All teams that I'm familiar with. Again, I'm not familiar directly with a lot of the rosters here. I would love to see Brighton move on. It's a team that has improved ever since they got into the Premier League. Marseille is pretty much they're a consistent fixture in League One in France. So in Ajax, who hasn't heard of Ajax?
Right.
So what are you looking at here?
Yeah, Brighton is a team that you especially have kind of liked early on in the English Premier League, and so I think they have a chance not only to make some noise in this group, but make some noise in this tournament. It's always interesting to see. I mean, I think 90% of the time, 95% of the time, you're going to get the first team roster in these tournaments.
Yeah.
However, you never know, especially in these group games. They know more about each other than we know about them, so It's always interesting. But I'm going to take Brighton to win this group, actually.
Okay.
And then, do you take Ajax or do you take help me, Marseille?
Who you taking? Roll the dice on one.
I'm going to take Ajax from the Netherlands, and those are going to be my two coming out of that group.
I'm actually not taking Brighton here.
Okay.
This is their first time in an extended league. I just don't know that they have the depth to play that many matches. I'm taking Ajax and Marseille to move on here. Two teams that they've been there before.
Right.
They get it. So I'm taking those two to move on here. Group C, we've got Rangers of Scotland, Real Betis of Spain, Sparta Praha of Czech Republic. As far as Aris Limassol, I'm probably killing that as well, of Cyprus.
And can I just tell you that I know one of these teams? I know one of these teams.
I didn't realize Cyprus was a part of UEFA possibilities here, so that's kind of a shock there. And I'm well aware of Rangers, Scotland. Rangers is one of those teams, along with Celtic, that usually wins the Scottish leagues. We've talked about Real Betis climbing the charts in Spain. I do know that Sparta has been in Europa previously. I don't know that they've been well off, moving on down the road. But as far as the team from Cyprus, not a clue what's going on with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so, I'll go for, I'm going to take Real Betis to win.
Okay.
Or to advance. And then only because one of my favorite people in the world is my team manager on my club team, and she is from Scotland, and that's where her family still lives. So I'm going to go with the Rangers to advance as well. Shout out to Arwen Hamilton.
Nice. I like that. I'm also going to take Real Betis to move on, but I'm going to climb with Sparta of Czech Republic. Czech Republic has developed nice players into their national team. I'm not saying all their team players are from the Czech Republic, but they have that pedigree there. So I'm taking Real Betis and Sparta to move on in Group C. Going on to Group D, we have Atalanta from Italy, Sporting SC of Portugal, Sturm of Austria, as well as Rakow of Poland. I'm not very familiar with Sturm or Rakow, the Austrian and Polish leagues. I can't say that they're very in depth,
right?
Or any team that's in those leagues that you can say, yeah, they're going to move on here. So I don't have a lot of faith in them move on. I'm going to go ahead and say Atlanta Sporting SC really easily moving on from Group D here.
I agree as well.
Moving into Group E, we have Liverpool of England, LASK of Austria, Union SG of Belgium, and Toulouse of France. Liverpool here struggled last season, kind of barely getting into the spot, really winning a few games and getting those points in the season. Union SG of Belgium, I know some of the Belgium teams have some success here. Of course, Toulouse in the French leagues. I'm assuming they also have possibly that depth to move on here. What you looking at here, Coach?
Yeah, it's so easy for us to take, to just take every EPL team. Because that is, to bet on them, to take them to get out of the group seems like an easy bet, right? It seems like okay, if I'm going to make a bet here, I'm going to take the EPL team, and then I'm just going to roll the dice on the second team.
Sure.
I think this might be a group where maybe you don't take Liverpool.
Blasphemy. Can't believe you just said that.
But
Actually hurt my feelings a little bit there, Coach.
well,
you
they're just not. They've just struggled, and they're so inconsistent, and you just never know what you're going to get. And so, do you take a team out of Belgium who you know, as you mentioned, is going to have the depth? They're going to be battle tested. Right. They're going to kind of know what they're doing. So you take like a Toulouse and Union SG.
Sure.
And see what you get.
Is that what you're sticking with?
That's what I'm sticking with.
Well, to ping off what you said earlier about do you take the EPL team, there is a reason teams like England and Spain and Germany are getting 6 positions to get Europa and Champions League.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's because they have the higher pedigree. They have the rosters of the top-tier talent as far as the world goes. So I'm not saying Liverpool's going to roll through here. I'm concerned about their midfield depth. I have no question in their strike force. They've got starters and subs that are to come in and score goals.
Mm-hmm.
I am concerned about the Belgian team. I think they're going to be a solid team here, so I'm going to take Liverpool and Union SG here. Moving on to Group F, we have Villarreal from Spain, Reims from France, Maccabi Haifa from Israel, again, another team I didn't realize was part of UEFA, and Panathinaikos of Greece. I've heard the name. I hope I did that right. I shot that out of the dark.
I'm so glad you're having to pronounce all these names first.
So right off the bat, didn't realize Israel had their own professional football league here, right, let alone part of UEFA. So I'm going to scratch them off that list. I don't see them having any talent anywhere near what is needed for a Europa Champions League. I like Villarreal from Spain. I'm going to take the Greek team and Panathinaikos. I probably just killed that, but those are my 2 teams here.
I'm going to take Villarreal as well, but I'm going to go with the French team of Rennes.
Probably a good bet there. I like that. Moving on to Group G. I personally like AS Roma of Italy. You've got Slavia Praha of Czech Republic, Sheriff of Moldova, as well as Servette of Switzerland. I believe I remember Sheriff last year caused some problems in the group stage and moved on.
Yeah.
And so that's a team to keep an eye on. Let's be honest here. Moldova doesn't have the population to have a solid roster here. So what they did last year, either good coaching,
right,
good tactics, because there's no way you can tell me the talent was there to overpower some of those teams. So for this one, I love AS Roma. I'm riding with them. And I'm going to continue with the Czech Republic teams and go with Slavia Praha.
I'm going to take AS Roma, and kind of like what you said, they're battle tested, they're experienced, at least when it comes to this tournament. I'm going to roll with Sheriff.
Moving on to the final group, Group H, we have Bayer Leverkusen of Germany, Karabakh of Azerbaijan. I'm sure I'm killing that. Molde of Norway and Haken of Sweden. Again, those Norwegian teams are interesting to watch.
Right.
As well as some of the Denmark teams, some of the Danish teams here. We're familiar with Leverkusen. Again, does Leverkusen have the depth to have this many extra games along with their season? I'm not giving any credit to Azerbaijan here. I'm not sold on the men's Swedish teams coming in, so I'm going with Leverkusen and Molde of Norway.
That's actually exactly who I'm going with. I'm a little more sold on Leverkusen. You and I are recording this on Friday night. We know that Leverkusen and Munich have just tied today 2-2. Mm-hmm. I think Leverkusen is playing really, really good soccer at the right time. I think Leverkusen rolls through this group, and I like them going forward as well.
Absolutely. All right, that wraps up the Europa League. Go ahead.
Do you want to pick a winner? Or do you want to...
Well, I think we've already given our group winners. I think we'll follow them more once we get to the round of 16, just like
Perfect.
we do with Champions League, and we'll follow them later on in the year.
Perfect.
So let's move on to Champions League. Again, Europa, match day 1, September 21st, which will be Thursday of the following week. Let's get into Champions League here, Coach. Group A, Bayern Munich of Germany, Man United of England, Copenhagen of Denmark, and Galatasaray of Turkey. Teams we're very familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Munich United start off their match in the Champions League here. I'm not confident in Man United. They're already struggling in their season. Munich is already scoring goals.
Harry Kane's fun to watch.
Harry Kane is putting... Exactly. So, just like I said here, the Danes have caused problems. I do know Galatasaray, they have some players I'm familiar with on that Turkish team. Again, I'm not counting out United, but the fact that they've struggled already, I'm going to say they don't make it through the group stage.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like it.
I'm taking Munich and Galatasaray of Turkey.
I love that. I love that. I wonder whether if your hatred for United isn't like playing into that a little bit.
It typically would. It's their schedule right now and the issue going on with one of their players being dropped from the first team.
They've got a lot of issues.
We've said this before. You're going to start seeing cracks because there's got to be more issues going on than just that issue.
I agree with you 100%. I still think, they're even in their worst moments, they're top 10 in the EPL. And so
they've got the talent.
And they've got the $1.2 billion invested into their team. So surely they can get out of this group. And so I'm going to take Munich and Man United to get out.
Looking into Group B, we have the Europa champions Sevilla from Spain. We have Arsenal of England, PSV of the Netherlands, and I think it's Jens, maybe Lens or Jens of France. I need to make sure I check that pronouncing there. I'm really curious if Sevilla can do what they did last year. They did not do well in their league. I think they finished mid-table.
Right. We talked about them on several occasions.
They rocked in Europa last year, so I would love to see them make some shock wins here. Arsenal is going to be on top. So I'm in between Sevilla and PSV from the Netherlands.
Yeah, I am too.
So I'm going to go Arsenal and Sevilla, shocking that group here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you. I think Arsenal should win this group, barring anything crazy.
Agreed.
And then you're right, Sevilla, PSV, who, that'll be a fun matchup to watch because that's probably playing for the second spot. So I'm going to take Sevilla as well.
Again, folks, this is the Ace Football Academy. We are doing our Champions League and Europa League preview. We appreciate you tuning in for this. Let's get into Group C. We have Real Madrid of Spain, Napoli of Italy, Braga of Portugal, and Union Berlin of Germany. Teams, again, we're familiar with. Who does not know Real Madrid? Napoli winning the Italian League last year. Union Berlin finishing third or fourth of the German Bundesliga last season. This is going to be an interesting group here. It's not going to be easy for either team here.
I think it's the second hardest group of the entire bracket here.
Yeah, right.
It's very, very interesting. You want to say that Real Madrid is the favorite in the group.
Sure.
But, Napoli's been so good lately, and, Union Berlin had a good close to the end of last season. It's going to be interesting here. I think, I won't speak for you, but I think Real Madrid will get at least second here. I'm going to say that they win the group.
Okay.
However, that Napoli Union Berlin, for me, is just flip a coin.
It absolutely is.
No and take heads or tails. I wish I knew who you were taking because I would take the opposite.
Well, let me go ahead and give mine then. Okay. So we're agreeing Real Madrid is probably going to get first or second, and that's really a hands down situation there.
Agreed.
Napoli has not started their season well. Now, whether they brought in new players, new tactics, whatever it may be, Union Berlin, I'm not saying they're struggling, but they're in the same boat that you kind of expect them to be in the Bundesliga. Can Braga of Portugal cause some problems
Yeah, we
here?
didn't even mention them.
I really don't want to say no to Napoli because they were so dominant in Italy last year. But this is the Champions League, and you've got to have that depth. And so I am taking Real Madrid and Union Berlin to move on here, only because Napoli has not started off as well as I expected them to be.
I am perfectly okay with taking Real Madrid and Napoli.
All right, let's get into Group D. We have Inter Milan of Italy, Benfica of Portugal, Salzburg of Austria, and Real Sociedad of Spain. My big thing is Sociedad ready for this?
No, I agree 100%.
They pretty sure they finished fourth in La Liga last year, which I don't want to say was a shock. They are an upper mid-table team to begin with. Do they have the depth? I'm going to say this a lot because when you go to Champions League and you're playing your season and you're playing your domestic cups and now you're getting into Champions League, you have to have depth because if one guy gets injured and you've got some scrub on the bench, you're probably not moving on here. So that's going to be my concern. Inter Milan killing it right now. Salzburg is okay. I don't think Sociedad gets it done. I'm sticking with Inter Milan and Benfica. Benfica has been proven over the years to get through the stages.
Wow, that's I really thought you were gonna go Inter Milan and Real Sociedad there. That's interesting because everything you said is exactly right. You know, with Real Sociedad, again, it's kind of one of those things where they haven't had this extended season before, and so you know, we keep talking at you especially keep bringing up that word depth and can they continue? And so you also have, you know, these aren't matches that take place for the most part during international breaks or take place during, you know, time off.
Right.
You know, they happen within the season. And so a lot of managers are weighing, do I want to win the Champions League? Do I want to compete in my own league? Do I want to do both? You know, so sometimes you end up with players who are now all of a sudden playing 140, 150 minutes of soccer a week, and that's just really, really hard. And so, like I say, I'm very shocked that you went Benfica there because that's what I was going to do.
Okay.
And I think because of everything we've just talked about, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stay with you here and go Inter Milan and Benfica.
Let's get into Group E, and I'll start off the bat. This is a flip of the coin group. I don't see a clear winner in this. You got Atletico Madrid of Spain, Feyenoord of Netherlands, Lazio of Italy, and Celtic of Scotland. There are teams who are good here, but there's no team where I'm saying they're clearly going to move on here. They may not win it,
right?
But they're probably going to move on.
Right.
If I was to guess, Atletico Madrid is probably your favorite on this, but the other three, I can't say I have faith that they're going to just go through and kill it.
No, I agree with that. You know, I've kind of always liked Lazio. I don't know why. You know, they didn't have a great season last year, but they've always kind of competed. They always hang around. They're always there. Absolutely. Because of that reason, I kind of like them in this group because, as you mentioned, there's no clear-cut favorite. You want a team that is used to close games. You want a team that is used to kind of hanging around and, you know, being a thorn in the side. I like Lazio here to advance.
Okay.
And then, you know, for me, it's between Celtic and Atletico Madrid.
Okay.
Or, I'm sorry, Celtic, not Celsius. That's the temperature. Celtic and Athletic Madrid. You know, there's a big part of me that wants to stay with Celtic and just go with the kind of being my upset group.
Sure, right.
So I think I'll do that. I think I'll take Lazio and Celtic to advance.
Yeah, I'm on the Atletico Madrid. I feel they'll have the depth.
Yeah.
The team, the coach, the organization is familiar with having this much extra games to deal with, so I feel they're more prepared. And I'm literally flipping a coin, and I'm also going with Celtic of Scotland here. I don't know how that's really going to go, but we're going to fly that road. Now, group Group F. This
is
is
fun.
the group of death.
Yeah, it's fun. It's awesome. It's so much fun.
You've got some top-tier teams, true top-tier teams here. You've got Paris from France, obviously, Borussia Dortmund of Germany, AC Milan of Italy, and Newcastle of England. These are the big dogs. Teams that we are all not just have heard of, we have watched them.
Yeah.
We have seen them in big matches. We have watched them in their leagues. They've got the big names on their teams.
Could you imagine being either one of these 4 teams and watching these groups unfold and then seeing your group unfold and going, are you freaking kidding
That's exactly what everybody's saying. Are you flipping kidding me?
Yeah, are you? Like, I mean, all 4 of these teams, I mean, we talked about loving the EPL earlier. All 4 of these teams have potential, maybe not to win it, but to go deep into this tournament. I mean, Newcastle, maybe the least, I would have to look at it, but the fewest odds, or the smallest odds is the word I'm looking for, the smallest odds to win the whole thing.
Right.
But, I mean, you have PSG, Dortmund, AC, all these teams who are, and again, not only are they in this group together, they're all playing really well, really good soccer right now as well. And I could not imagine being a manager saying, man, we got to the Champions Cup, let's go, here we go, and boom, this is my group.
As a coach of one of these teams, you got to go to your organization and say, what's more important to you? Getting top 4 in the league, domestic cup, Champions League. What am I focusing on? Because
that's a great point.
This group is going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be a nightmare, but it's going to take a toll on your roster.
Yeah.
And preparing for all those games is going to be tough. So let's dig right in here. I'm going to throw it right out. Newcastle, I love the way they're playing, but they're not scoring goals. Right. They are struggling to score goals. I've watched them play Manchester City. I watched them play Liverpool. I forget what the other game was. I watched the other game. I forget what it was. But their flow of the game is an Eddie Howe style. It's so fun to watch him play. They're just not scoring.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's all that matters in soccer. You have to find the back of the net.
Right.
I mean, how many times have, again, we talk to the coaches all the time listening, and really even the players. How many times have you walked off the field and thought, oh my goodness, how did we lose that game? We were the better team.
Yeah,
absolutely. We took 24 shots on goal. They took 2, and we got beat 1-0.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that is Newcastle's biggest issue right now.
100%.
Especially in this group. I mean, who out of these 3 teams, PSG, Dortmund, and AC Milan, who are you going to score against?
Dortmund.
Yeah, I guess.
Of all 4 of these teams, I think Dortmund has the toughest route. They're not starting the season strong. They've lost some players.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're in that situation where they're probably going to put their league ahead of the Champions League. I don't see Dortmund moving on this.
Okay. I tend to agree with that. Again, it's one of those things where if they move on, am I shocked? Not really.
No, right.
But I would agree. If I had to rank this right now, Dortmund would be my 4th team.
I agree. Paris Saint-Germain no longer have Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
How is that going to affect them?
Yeah.
Neymar has left. How is that going to affect them? They've re-signed Mbappe. Another situation is that going to affect their Champions League? So is Newcastle going to be the new Sevilla? I love AC Milan here. They've started the season off well. They've picked up some players. Their new players have already benefited their roster here. So I'm in between Saint-Germain and Newcastle moving on. I'm blowing my mind here, but I'm going to take AC Milan and Newcastle. I'm rolling dice on Newcastle. I think they get it figured out. I think they've got a great coach to do it. I got Milan and Newcastle moving on.
I have Milan and PSG.
I like it.
Mostly because of the Mbappe factor. I know
there's no doubt.
I know there are issues there.
Yeah.
But in these types of tournaments, your stars always come to play.
Absolutely.
And they have the biggest star.
I agree.
And so I'm going to ride with PSG there.
Looking on Group G, we have Manchester City of England, RB Leipzig of Germany, Krajva Sjeja of Serbia.
I'm so
no
glad
idea how to say that.
So
And
glad you're pronouncing
Young
this.
Boys of Switzerland here. Let's be honest here. Manchester City, they could put their B team on the field and probably still move on.
Mm-hmm.
The one team that I'm watching is Young Boys of Switzerland. They could cause some problems. RB Leipzig is probably your other favorite in this group.
Right.
I'm going to stick with them and say Manchester City and Leipzig.
I'm going to go with the same, actually. One of the few groups we've been the same on. But yeah, I think if everybody plays their best squad, I think Man City and Leipzig should 100% move on. And I think that's what you're going to get early in this tournament.
Absolutely.
So that I think they move on.
And finally, we have Group H, where we have Barcelona of Spain, Porto of Portugal, Shakhtar Donetsk of Ukraine, and Antwerp of Belgium. Is Ukraine team really ready for this? Their country's in the middle of a war with Russia. They're still playing in their leagues, which is blowing my mind
That's
that
awesome.
they're still involved in this.
I think it's great. I mean, shout out to those people who are dealing with all of this, and I mean, it's what's so great. Is what's so great and also maybe so wrong about the game of soccer is that it just goes on.
Life continues,
and especially it's so different for us here in the States. Because people are, it's kind of like the NFL. It's kind of like, college football here in the States. Over in these places, sometimes soccer is all they have.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You see them storming the pitches and burning, and it's awesome. It's fun. So I would love the Ukraine team to advance here, but I just don't see it happening.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. Barcelona will probably win this.
Yeah.
I'm not big on the Belgium team. I know Porto, they've done this before. Again, they probably have the depth. So I'm taking Barcelona, Porto to move on. I'm
going to do the same, I guess, mostly because I don't know much about the other two teams. And not that I know a ton about Porto, but I know where they play. And I know the soccer style and competition over there. So that's why I'm going to go with Barcelona and Porto there.
All right, folks, that has been our Europa League and Champions League preview. We want to give a big thanks to our sponsor providing this of A.C. Car Wash of Richmond. Please visit them for all your car washing and detailing needs. They are a family-run business, small business as well. Give them a shout out. This has been the ACE Football Academy. Coach Dunham, Coach Hamilton. Catch those games. We'll see you next time.